Oh gosh, that is gonna stump me. You know, the person I'm gonna say you're gonna that would be crazy. I'm gonna say Justin Trudeau. The-
Oh, hi everyone, it's Samantha Tennant, and welcome to another Fresh Fiction Video Book Club. I am so excited tonight. Our guest is Kelly Jamieson, USA Today best-selling author of, I'm going to have to double check on this number because I've seen over 50 novels and novellas. I've seen over 60. I've seen more. I can just tell you, I have read so many of these. Kelly, it's so good to see you. I'm so excited about tonight.
Yay, thank you so much. I've kind of lost track of how many books I've written. I think it might be close to 70 now. That's crazy, eh?
Okay. 70 means I have still a ways to go. I think my number right now of yours, because I was double checking on my Kindle and on my Goodreads, and I'm sitting at around 28. And I
Oh,
know
that's
I have
nice.
the Light 'em Up still on my TBR because I have that one that was in our Fresh Fiction box. I was so excited. That's my actual brick and mortar one I can hold in my hand. And of course, your newest one that just came out, Crossing the
Yeah,
Line, for a brand new series. So that's on the top of my TBR also. It's like you keep coming out with these. This is
I
great.
know. And so much hockey. I know I loved you guys talking about the hockey and the sports. That was fun.
Well,
Um,
why hockey? Because I have to admit, and I want to get into your history also, but you and probably Kate Meter are the ones that started me on a lot of the hockey themed sports books. I grew up in Texas. We
yeah.
are not exactly a hockey state. I mean, we got the Dallas Stars many years ago, so I'm familiar with Mike Modano and some of the initial, but it was never the thing I grew up
Yeah.
with. But then I
Yeah.
started reading y'all's books. I'm hooked. It's enough where I actually understand. So I do go with some friends to the Allen American games here locally, and enough where I can follow along. And when they try to
Awesome.
explain stuff, I'm like, oh no, I know what's going on. I know. I understand what that is. It's all good.
I love that. I love that. Hockey romance got you into hockey. That's perfect. I also love Kate Meter's books too. Um, well, I'm Canadian, so I mean that probably says it all, right? So hockey's our sport. So I grew up from the time I was like honestly a baby. I'm sure my mom put me, on the floor in front of the TV when I was a baby to watch hockey games every Saturday night. That was the Canadian thing back then. And I just grew up watching it. And then when I was in high school, my boyfriend played hockey, so I used to go to his games and cheer for him. And he used to take me to, we had a major junior team in the town where we grew up. So he used to take me to games, and I would like ask him questions about everything that's happening on the ice. So because I wanted to understand what was going on, and he explained, he loved teaching me about hockey, of course, right? So, and I just love the sport. I've always loved it. I know when I wanted to write hockey romance, but everybody back then said, no, you can't write about professional athletes. You just can't do that. And I wasn't really sure why, so I did it anyway. And now there's all kinds, I mean, so much hockey romance, all kinds of professional sports romances.
Well, how did you first get started writing then? Let's put the hockey aspect aside. I mean, how did you get into romance? What was your incentive to really start putting the words to page?
Well, like hockey, I grew up reading romance. Probably in my teens, I'm one of the ones that was like taking my mom's Harlequin romances. And I fell in love with romance too. So um, I've always been a writer, even when I was like a little kid. I had a little tiny toy typewriter and I used to sit in my bedroom and write my novel. I don't know what it was. I'm sure it was terrible, but um, I love doing that. And then, of course, like life gets in the way, and I got married and had kids, and that takes up a lot of time. But when my kids got to be like older teenagers, I had more time on my hands, and I thought, well, I'm either going to sit in front of the TV every night, or I'm going to try this and give it a shot. So I started writing and wrote some books, and the first ones weren't very good, but um, eventually I did get published. So that's how I got started.
What was it like getting that first acceptance letter then?
It was so exciting. It was, I think I got two contract offers like almost within days of each other from two different publishers, two different books though, even. So it was good. Like it wasn't just one, it was like all of a sudden I was going to have two books published. It was super exciting because I mean, that's the dream is when you start off is that you're actually going to get published and somebody's going to read what I wrote.
And how did, I mean, gosh, getting two, and so for two completely different books, were they
Yeah.
contemporary books at the time,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
was it already hockey at that point,
It wasn't
or
hockey at all, not hockey at all. No, in fact, when I started, I was writing erotic romance. There were some pretty spicy romances, and those were back in the days when digital publishers were just getting started. So digital first. And one of the publishers that offered me contract was Samhain, which went on to be like I had a great career with Samhain Publishing for years until they shut down. Um, and that was a wonderful thing for me.
okay, well, so if you were starting really writing more where they were more erotic, now your current books are definitely steamy, but
Yeah.
I'm always kind of fuzzy on the terminology for erotic. I read stuff and I'm like, that's erotic? What? Seriously? So how do you then, I'll say, or do you tone it back down now with some of your more recent books? Do you find that there's a big difference between, or is it more situational type element?
Honestly, I don't think that I've toned it down. Um, the erotic romances that I wrote were that I wrote some menage romances, which I guess now we call them why choose or something else, even
Yeah.
polyamorous romances. Um, and I wrote some light BDSM, kind of romantic BDSM romances. Um, so those were kind of, that's what made those ones more erotic. But when I write just a straight contemporary romance, I don't really think I'm toning it down. There's still, open door sex scenes, and I get fairly graphic, just maybe not quite as kinky and not usually three people in the bedroom. But I think at the time, what seemed erotic now just seems spicy. And like you say, the terminology kind of changes all the time, and I'm not sure either some people don't think my books are that spicy, so I don't know.
Well, one of the things that I read when I was getting ready for the interview tonight was that you tend to write books that you also love to read.
Mhm.
So it's got the sexy elements, it's the humor, it's packed full of emotion. And I think the humor, especially, is what jumps out at me with so many of your books and with the banter and the situations. How does that flow into your books? Is that coming naturally? Do you need to go back and insert the different conversational elements, or it's like, oh, this needs a little bit more punch? Or do you have the scene running in your head and you're just kind of cackling along as you go ahead and type it out?
Yeah, it just kind of flows as I'm writing. I think I always had lots of humor in my books, but I have to say that over the last few years, I've been working more on that to bring out more humor, a little bit more humorous situations, but I've always loved the fun banter and jokes. So, but yeah, I kind of get into the character's head and that just flows, that just comes. So I'm glad to hear that it's funny. Sometimes you never know when it's your own work, right?
Well, and I'm also curious about your different series. Because again, hockey themed, but you've got so many different ones, and they each have a different spin on them, and with a fresh set of stories. I mean, because you've got the Win Hockey, you've got the Heller brothers, the Aces, and of
Yeah.
course, with the latest book, Crossing the Line, it's another brand new series.
Yeah.
And of course, you've got the Bears, and I mean, there's so many. So how do you? You're still in the world of hockey, but how do you make each of those series fresh with a brand new
Well,
set of circumstances?
yeah, it's like like you said, they're all kind of different. The Heller Brothers was my first hockey series that I ever wrote. And I thought that, I mean, I was kind of inspired by a real life hockey family who had actually four brothers who played in the NHL. And I thought that was a fun idea to have a book for each brother. Then, when I wanted to write a new series and I was pitching it to a publisher, I decided this time around it would be a team, a whole team. So I'd start off with, the captain of the team, and then his roommate would be the next one, and then, and every, all different players, but all connected on the same team. So you'd see them in, in subsequent books. And then, uh, when it came time to, I think my publisher had said, yeah, I think that series is long enough. Let's move on to something else. What do you want to do now? And so I thought, how about a family again, but not just four brothers. How about a really big dynasty kind of family with lots of like secrets and lies and betrayals and but they're a hockey royalty kind of family. So I loved writing the Wynn family hockey series. That one was super fun with all the different family dynamics and a little bit of there's some sadness in it too, but I loved all the characters and I thought that I really liked that one. And then, of course, I mean, I don't know how different can you get? So I just kind of went back to writing about teams after that. And the reason that I have a new team with this latest book, Crossing the Line, is because it's a new publisher. So I kind of had to start over again with another team.
Okay, like I said, I have not read Crossing the Line yet. So is it, even with it being a new publisher, is it an entire new world, so to speak, or is it just a new team? It's a new world.
It's a new team, but you know what? It's not a completely new world because the Bears hockey series that I wrote was set in New York. So the New York Bears. One of the teams that they played against was the New Jersey Storm. So that's the team for the new series. So, and actually, there's a few characters that make an appearance even from the Bears hockey into that because, New York and New Jersey are pretty close. Um,
And how do you keep all that straight then? Do you keep separate story diaries and all the
yeah,
characters and yeah.
I'm not good at it. I'm not good at it at all. But I've kind of learned over the years that I need to be better at that stuff because there's nothing worse than trying to figure out who was that character, what was their name, how old were they? Like, when you're writing three books later and you have to, oh, I've written myself into a corner because now I can't change that. So I've started keeping spreadsheets for every series with all of the characters and even some like setting descriptions and side characters, restaurants that they go to, that all that stuff that I need to be better at remembering. It's like that's not my strength. Timelines and keeping track of those details, I'm really terrible at. Just ask my
So
editor.
with that, do you consider yourself more to be a pantser, or are there
Yes.
still elements that you're plotting out, especially when you're dealing with a team or a family?
Yeah, I do plan a little more than I used to. Again, kind of that's how I've developed, but I am a pantser. I have, when I was planning out this new series, the first three books, I kind of came up with sort of three rough ideas for what they were going to be about. And when I plan a book, I don't really plot it out. I develop my characters and I figure out what they're going to learn about themselves by the end of the book. I don't know how that's going to happen. So that's the fun of writing it was I kind of know where I'm going, but I'm not sure how we're going to get there. And I let the characters take over and tell me what to do. Anytime I've tried to plot a book in detail, then I'm bored with it. Like even writing a synopsis, kind of when I have to figure out the whole story ahead of time, then I'm kind of like, oh, I've already told that story. I'm done with it. So I like to figure it out as I go along. I think that I know everybody's different, but that's what works for me.
Well, I'm also curious about the Bang brothers. In your book, Light
Oh
'em
yeah.
Up, but this was part of really more of a kind of an they're all standalone books, but it's part of kind of an anthology, right? Because there were other writers doing other
Yeah,
characters. So
yeah.
how was that process?
That was a pretty amazing, kind of intense experience. It just came up. We were all at a conference one time and, a couple of drinks in the bar after, and hey, that would be so fun if we did this series with, all of us together and we all did this and this and this. And so it actually took us a while to bring it all together, but there's so many details to figure it out. I mean, you have to, when you've got so many creative people involved, there's all kinds of ideas flying, and sometimes it's kind of hard to, keep it focused on what we needed to. But we all agreed that it would be about a family. So the whole family, the Bang family. Um, but it would also tie into our own series. So my actual character is the Bang daughter. She's the only girl in the family. Um, and the man that she gets involved with is a player on the New York Bears team. So it ties into my Bears hockey series, but also ties into the other Bang Brothers books as well.
See, with that, you've again added to my TBR
Mm,
because I first got, I'm like, oh, okay, there's a new one. Wait, there's more in this series. What? And like you said, if it's tying into other series,
yeah,
I've got to go back for all these other authors and read their other series that I haven't done yet. This is the constantly growing TBR, right?
yeah, I understand. Me too.
Well, one other thing, and then I kind of alluded to it earlier with reading all the hockey books, I feel I've picked up enough to know about the sport where I am comfortable going to the games. Now,
Yeah,
granted, I am not going to every game. I'm like the official sub for the people who have a season ticket, but I can hold my own. But with all the different hockey novels that have come out, I mean, that's become a phenomenon on BookTok. I mean, there was the whole thing a couple years ago with the Kraken team, where
yes.
like BookTok was kind of taking over from all the hockey romance readers. I mean, what's that like of where you are part of this whole huge thing where it's taking over and affecting the actual professional sports
Yeah.
teams?
Yeah, that was quite an interesting phenomenon. I wasn't really involved with it. I was kind of watching more from the sidelines, but I felt very uncomfortable about it for quite a while. And I mean, I wasn't going to stop writing hockey romance because of it, but there was a lot of things that made me very uncomfortable. And it's great to have fans, and it's great to have fans that really want to have that sort of parasocial relationship with authors or with sports celebrities. Um, but it was getting like they were treating the sports celebrities as if they were characters in a book that they could say anything about, and it was really awkward. So um, it was not a happy time, to be honest. I didn't think, it just didn't reflect well on hockey romance as a sort of subgenre, because I mean, I've been writing it for a long time, and that just kind of went in a whole different direction.
Yeah, I mean, when I first heard, I was like, hey, well, that's cool because here I've been reading hockey romance for quite some time, and friends are like, wait, there's hockey romance? What is this? So it's like when people were hearing about it, like, see, I
Yeah,
told you there's
yeah.
this whole other genre. But you're right. I mean, as it kind of went on, it's like, no, that's different from the books I'm reading. No, that's not
Yeah,
what's going on. And
yeah, yeah. I mean, you have to admire it. I mean, even the Kraken were kind of getting involved with it at first, and I think maybe they regretted that a little bit. But yeah, it was unfortunate because I mean, hockey romance was already so super popular. I don't think in the end, well, I don't know if it really did any damage to, I mean, it could have been really damaging for romance overall because there were a lot of articles that were written about it in big publications, and how these romance readers and authors were getting like way carried away. And I don't think it has. I think it's kind of blown over, but I was kind of worried about it.
I think the bigger takeaway it was that it did bring more of a spotlight to the genre in that, hey, look, we do have subgenres in all these different book areas, and there's sports, and they write about hockey, and here's all these other sports. And I think that's the bigger takeaway in that what I was hearing from other mainstream uh, media and others is like, did you even know that there was such a thing?
Yeah, I know.
And
Yeah,
like, well, duh, yeah, of
yeah.
course.
Now they do. Well, if it brings good attention to romance, to the romance genre, and to sports romance in particular, that that's a good thing. Sounds like positive attention.
How much research? Okay, so growing up in Canada, very familiar with the sport anyway.
Yeah.
And we were talking some prior to the interview too of like, okay, how much detail really needs to go in from a sports perspective into these stories. So you've got the banter, you've got these characters. How much additional, I hesitate to say research, but how
Yeah,
much
no, it is.
additional research essentially and details of the sport in that world do you also want to bring into your books? Or do you feel that's just additional window dressing or and most of your readers aren't as concerned? How do you make that balance?
I so I'm very um conscientious about trying to get my hockey details right. That's important to me as I'm a big fan of the sport and that matters.
Mm-hmm.
So um I I've written books where readers have said, "Oh, there's not enough hockey," and I've written books where readers have said, "Oh, there's too much hockey." So I just have to write what I think is the right amount of hockey in there. You know, some of my books are set in the off season, so there's not going to be on ice games. That's okay. That's a different kind of story. Um, I feel like I know a lot about hockey and I feel comfortable writing about it, but there's always little things that I have to look up or research because the partly because of, I want to get it right. Um, I just so yeah, and I mean they're probably not things that anybody else would care about. Like I mean I'll read the uh NHL collective bargaining agreement to, you know, figure out little tiny details about things, how many there's all kinds of things, but um you know, and I am constantly reading. I have an NHL team here in the city where I live. I love going to games. That's almost like research. But the local newspaper covers the team in detail. So I read every day after a game, I read what the sports writers are saying about them. And they quite often do little, what, I don't know, what do we call it? Little pieces that are kind of more lifestyle about the players. And I love getting those kinds of details, behind the scenes looks into the players' lives. I was fortunate that my now ex-husband was a photographer. He was the team photographer for the NHL team in town for a few years. So I got lots of good details from him about just little things about like even, you know, where does the GM sit when he's watching a game? Like not everybody knows or cares where that is, but I wanted to get it right. So I do,
And I realized I'm nodding my head as you're talking about like the collective bargaining, like I know what you're actually talking about when my
yeah,
knowledge from that is coming from your books or a friend's podcast that I listen to who talks somewhat about sports. So
yeah.
yeah, I can follow along. Well, Kelly, I want to jump over to what we call our fresh fiction facts. These are a series of rapid fire questions with answers, hopefully off the top of your head, not meant to stump you, okay?
Okay.
All right. Let's start with an easy one. If you were stuck in an elevator, who would you most want to be stuck with?
Oh gosh, that is gonna stump me. You know, the person I'm gonna say, you're gonna, that would be crazy. I'm gonna say Justin Trudeau. The Prime
Okay, I'll
sure
chalk
can.
that up to you being Canadian then. Okay.
Oh God. Well, I think it would be interesting to talk to him.
And if you're stuck in an elevator, hey, why not? You want a good conversationalist.
Yeah.
Okay. What's your favorite one-hit wonder?
Oh my God. I don't even know any one-hit wonders. I mean, I know there's lots. Uh, I wouldn't, if you want to think about an author, it wasn't a one-hit wonder, but she didn't write very many books. Um, her name was Beth Carey, way, way back, and I don't think she's writing anymore. And I loved her
Okay.
books. She wrote like obviously more than one, but not for a long time.
It's not okay. You've been kidnapped, but 2 hours later, you're returned because you will not stop talking about what?
Well, probably hockey or writing. I love talking about writing. I mean, well, there could be other things too, but probably hockey.
Other than books, what is something that you own a ridiculous amount of?
Shoes. That's an easy one.
Ooh.
I love
All different
shoes.
styles, or do you focus more on
Oh yeah.
sneakers or heels?
I have
Everything,
the
huh?
whole range, everything from flip-flops to sneakers to 4-inch stiletto heels. I love them all. Any kind of cute shoe. Yeah,
Okay.
it's definitely a weakness.
What luxury item can you not live without?
Hmm. Luxury item. Well, not live without. Oh, I don't know. You're stumping me on this one. I don't have very many luxury items. I don't know if there's really any luxury item that I have. Yikes.
Okay, well,
I'm
how about
stumped.
what is the crazy stumped you? How about what is the craziest item that you've bought off of Amazon or purchased online?
Shoes. That's not really that crazy, but I do buy shoes online. And
Buying them online, that might qualify. I've got to try mine on and
I
walk up
know
and down.
that I seem to have luck buying them online. They always seem to fit. Yeah.
What is your most dog-eared book? The one that you keep going back to over and over again, either for reference or just for enjoyment.
Hmm. I have lots of reference books that I definitely go to while I'm writing. One of those would probably be Romancing the Beat by Gwen Hayes. I love that book. It helped me so much with my writing. I use it almost, I do use it every book. And if you want a fiction one, I can actually show you. Hang on, you're gonna love this.
We always love it when people pull stuff off of their bookshelves.
Yeah. Uh, which one? Oh, well, that's not it. Here. Sorry.
Oh, Flame in the Flower.
Look at it. Isn't that beautiful? It's old.
Wow. It looks in really good condition too, though.
It's pretty good. Ugh, it's like the font is really small now. I have a whole shelf of Kathleen Woodiwiss old books.
Oh, wow.
Those are special.
Well, they go back to classics, right?
Hmm.
I mean, like you said, reading the Harlequins when we were younger, and it's like, oh
Yeah,
yeah, these are the ones that kind of set us up for
yeah,
so many of the books today on things.
yeah.
Good call. Good call. Okay. Would you rather go back in time to meet your ancestors or go forward to meet your descendants?
I think I'd rather go back.
And
I
how far back would you like to go?
oh, I would like to go back to, apparently my ancestors came from Ireland, and I just went to Ireland for the first time last fall. So I would love to go back and meet ancestors in Ireland and talk to them. And I'm really into history, so that would be fun.
Well, being into history, have you ever taken a stab at doing a historical novel?
Oh, I did start one once. I did tons and tons of research. I thought it was a really kind of unique idea and a different setting and a different time period. I was really going to do it, and like a lot of research. And I don't know what happened, but it just got to be a little too much, I think. About half, I don't know. And I didn't even get halfway, probably a third, probably about a third of the way. I'd love to go back to it someday, but man, when you're not a historical author, that it just takes so much longer researching everything. Because I mean, I'm not familiar with what people wore at that time period. Everything had to be looked up, so it
Well,
kind of
this way the
dragged it.
history stays fun. That's the fun hobby then.
Yeah.
Okay. Where do you consider to be your ideal paradise?
My ideal paradise. I love the city of Santa Barbara in California. But
Yeah.
my again ex-husband went to school there. We were married for a long time. Went to school there. He was a photographer. So he lived there for a few years, and then we went back so many times. And I got to sort of experience it with him because he was almost like a native there. He'd lived there for years and was like a local, took me to all the little local places. Even our kids love that place. It's just, it's beautiful. It's right on the ocean. There's mountains. The weather's perfect. You know, that's my favorite place.
What is one thing that can instantly pull you out of a story, be it either a movie or a book?
A book is definitely, I am pulled out if there is bad grammar. Yeah, it definitely, that stuff bugs me. So, and I sometimes if I'm reading hockey, I get pulled out if by hockey mistakes, but sometimes I don't. Like, I guess it kind of depends on how bad of a mistake it is. Sometimes it doesn't really matter to the story. The story is the most important thing.
What is the most terrible movie that you legitimately enjoy watching?
A terrible movie? Oh, um, well, I don't know. Do people consider that terrible? You- Uh, no, I don't know. You're stumping me again. I'm not a huge movie watcher for one thing. Like
Ah, okay.
I'd rather read a book than watch a movie. So there's probably been a lot of bad movies that I've watched that
Well,
I
that's good.
enjoyed. I can't think of them.
If you came with a warning label, what would it say?
A warning label. Warning likes to spend money on shoes and many other things.
What is one skill that you wish you had learned but you never did?
I would like to be able to dive.
Oh.
I was never a very strong swimmer. I'm okay at it, but I never learned how to actually dive into the water. And I don't even like being underwater that much. So, and I would love to like scuba dive, even like go down and see what's under there. That seems like an amazing experience to me, but I'm not going to do it now.
This wasn't a one to push you to do it. This was just the
Yeah,
curiosity element. It's
wish
okay.
I'd learned when I was younger.
What is one thing that you always forget when you're in a hurry?
Oh, I forget so many things. I can forget anything. I can I can forget my keys. I can forget my phone. I've never forgotten my purse, I don't think. I've forgotten a kid. What? If I'm in a hurry,
As
I'm
long as
like
we eventually
scared
remember them, it's okay.
to.
Well, and of course, as readers, we always want to know, what are you working on next?
Okay. I was actually, as I was sitting here waiting for this to start, I was frantically typing out a synopsis for the book that I just finished writing. And it will be coming out in, I think, early May, a part of another multi-author kind of series. There's just three of us this time, and it's about three sisters in Napa Valley who inherit a winery and have to figure out how to run it and actually make wine. Actually, one of them does know how to make wine. My book is the middle book about the middle daughter who is a winemaker. So that was a lot of research, but a lot of fun researching. As along with shoes, I do like wine. Um, so it's a fun story, I think. I love it's a beautiful setting set in Napa, winery, lots of wine, lots of romance. That's what's coming
Do you
out
have a
next.
title for that yet?
It is
We have
called,
titles.
title is, my book is Gone with the Wine. Yeah.
Awesome. That comes out in May, you said.
Yeah, early
Fantastic.
May.
Well, with that, where is the best place for our readers and listeners to keep up with you and find out what else is new, what's going on, and any other kind of announcements?
Well, I'm on all the socials. I'm not on a lot these days, but you can find stuff about me on Facebook or Instagram or I'm not on Twitter anymore, but I am on Blue Sky and Threads. Um, and probably my newsletter is the best way because I'm regular about that and about keeping up with updating my newsletter subscribers about what's going on. That's probably the best way.
Awesome. Well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. I really enjoyed talking with you. I am a huge fan. And like I said, I have read
Thank you.
so many of your stories.
That's
And
so
so,
nice.
with that, readers, if you haven't checked out Crossing the Line, be sure and go pick that up. It's her latest release. And be on the lookout for Gone with the Wine that'll come out in May. And like I said, huge fan. I've read so many, and I still have more to read, which is always
Yeah.
one of those things you love when you have authors. So
Yeah.
go and check it out as soon as you can.
Thank you so much.